3 months after meeting Killer Bee and the others, Naruto and his mother along with Shizune and Tonton were traveling along a forest road in Hino-kun Fire Country. They were currently on their way to the Fire Daimyo's country estate outside the capital of Hino-kune. Tsunade had been contacted by the Sandaime Hokage through her slug summons. The Sandaime had informed her that the daimyo's son and heir was gravely ill and none of the daimyo's doctors could do anything to help him. Hence the daimyo had asked the Sandaime if he could make contact with Tsunade and send word to her that he needed her help. When Tsunade had heard this, she had been concerned about keeping Naruto's existence a secret, since if she arrived in the capital with Naruto even in disguise, people may discover that Naruto was her son, hence all their hiding would have been for nothing. She also knew that she could not say no, since for one reason she was a healer.
Speechify Premium gives you ultra-fast reading speeds, the ability to save content across all your devices, and oh yeah, Snoop Dogg.
Yo, it's Snoop D-O-double-G, and I'm excited you picked me to bring life to the words on your screen.
Download Speechify Premium today for an ad-free, unlimited storage experience.
Healer, and she was swore to help those who were ill or injured and who asked for help. While the other being that if she said no and Fire Daimyo's son died, the repercussion to both her and Konoha would be unpleasant, to say the very least. So she decided to do the only thing she could. She told the Sandaime to tell the Fire Daimyo that she would help his son. But he would have to bring his son to his private country estate outside the capital and only have a handful of his most trusted and loyal guards and servants there. When the Sandaime told the Fire Daimyo of Tsunade's condition, he agreed to them immediately, although he was curious as to Tsunade's conditions. As the group neared the estate, they saw several of the Fire Daimyo's private guards along with 2 fire samurai dressed in crimson red armor with their 4 katanas on each of their sides and masks. Once the samurai and guards saw them coming and confirmed who they were, they allowed them to enter through the main gateway of the estate. As they walked through the estate, they saw the large gardens that were well trimmed and the clear pools of water with fish swimming in them and the clean white marble pathways that they were walking on. After climbing a few dozen steps and crossing a small bridge that went over a small clear stream with more fish in it, they came face to face with the large door of the main building of the estate, where the Fire Daimyo and his son were waiting for them. When they entered the main part of the estate, where they met a servant, who then led them through the mansion hallway and brought them to a large empty room where they sat and waited for the Fire Daimyo to arrive. As they sat down, Naruto was unusually quiet. This was because Tsunade had told him he had to be on his best behavior as he was about to meet the ruler of Hino-kune. And although he was fairly easygoing person, he still needed to be respectful, for they did not need to be on the bad side of a daimyo. Naruto wore the same kind of outfit that he wore when he met Killer Bee and his team, with the only new thing being different from it was that he carried the katana that Killer Bee gave him on his back, with a sling going across his chest to keep the sword on his back. When Tsunade saw Naruto with the sword, she had asked him where he had gotten it along with the Kenjutsu scrolls. Fortunately, Naruto had come up with a believable excuse, where he told her that he had met a traveling merchant that was passing through town. He then told her that he saw the sword and the scrolls, and to her how the man gave him a good offer on both the sword and the scrolls and bought them from him with some money that he had saving. Naruto had hated lying to his mother, but he knew that if he told her the truth she would go berserk and take away the sword and scroll from him, where he would never be able to get stronger with them. Tsunade had believed the answer, as there was little reason to doubt him, and was happy at last to see Naruto trying to get stronger. During the following months after getting the sword, Naruto had improved steadily and was getting better and better with using the sword. He often sparred against his clone so that he could learn quicker and learn from his mistakes, whether he beat his clone or his clone beat him. Soon enough, the Fire Daimyo entered the room with 4 royal guards and 2 armed samurai wearing the same kind of armor that the samurai they saw at the gate. The guards positioned themselves around the Fire Daimyo while the samurai sat on their knees, where one sat on the Fire Daimyo's far front left while the other sat on the Fire Daimyo's far front right, so that if Tsunade or the others tried to attack the Fire Daimyo, they could intercept them before they could reach the Fire Daimyo. The Fire Daimyo himself was a man in his mid to late 50s. He was a thin and tall man with a narrow face. Once the Fire Daimyo was seated in front of Tsunade and the others, he then spoke in a pleasant, friendly and welcoming voice. Greetings, Tsunade-san. I am very grateful that you came to help my son, as he is in desperate need your help. Of course, Daimyo Dano, I will do whatever I can to help you, replied Tsunade respectfully. Thank you, said the Fire Daimyo, where he then turned to look at Shizune, who was holding Tonton in her arms and was on Tsunade left. And this must be you, Apprentice Shizune, if I'm not very much mistaken, said the fire daimyo. Hi. It is an honor to meet you, Daimyo Dano, spoke Shizune respectfully and did a slight bow with the fire daimyo, waved his hand politely saying she did not need to, and smiled slightly. He then turned and looked over to Naruto, who was sitting on Tsunade's right. But I am unfamiliar as to who this young boy next to you, is he another student of yours? That you took in, asked the fire daimyo. At this question Tsunade became hesitant to answer, although she had expected it and knew what she needed to say, she was still hesitant to answer it. As she knew she may be putting Naruto's life in danger, where all the years that they have been hiding would have been for nothing. Before I answer you question Daimyo Dano, did the Hokage tell you all of the conditions that had to be made when helping your son? Asked Tsunade cautiously, as she was unsure that she could trust the men in the room as well as the others in the estate. Yes, I have. I have only brought a group of about 30 servants, 20 royal guards and 12 of my samurai here. I trust them all without question, as they have all served me loyally for many years, replied the fire daimyo with his eyebrows slightly risen up. Since when he first heard Tsunade's condition from the Sandaime, he was curious as to why Tsunade had asked for these conditions. Now that she was here with an unknown boy, his curiosity was piqued even more, since it was oblivious that Tsunade's cautious nature was linked to the young boy next to her. At this Tsunade sighed and remained quiet for a minute or two, preparing herself for what she had to say. The boy next to me, Daimyo Dano, is named Naruto. Senju Naruto to be more precise, and he is my son, said Tsunade. When the fire daimyo heard this, he was naturally shocked to say the least, where both his eyebrows went right up into the air where they were hidden behind his headdress that he was wearing. Even the fire daimyo's guards and samurai were equally shocked at the news that Tsunade of the Sannin had a child. Once the fire daimyo got over his shock, he began to chuckle. My. This is quite a shock. I'm surprised that I'm only learning this now and not years ago, since I would have expected news as monumental as this to be no long by now. That is because no one knows that I have had a child, Daimyo Dano. Very few people even know this, and I would like it to be kept this way, if you will, Daimyo Dano, spoke Tsunade, which caused the daimyo to raise his eyebrows again curiously. Oh. And may I ask why you wish to keep such happy news hidden from everyone, especially from Konoha? Since I would be certain that the people as well as the ninjas there would be overjoyed at the news that you had a son and that your clan line can still continue on, asked the daimyo. The reason being, Daimyo Dano, is that there are many enemies outside Konoha who would like nothing more than to attack my son, to hurt me, or to use him for their own means. As to why Konoha does not know is simply because I wanted my son to be raised like a normal child and not be spoiled by the village simply because he is my son and is the heir to my clan, replied Tsunade. At this news the fire daimyo hummed a bit and brought his hand up to his chin as he was thinking over to Tsunade, reasoning. Yes, I can understand your reasoning, Tsunade, and you do have the right to how you raise your own child. Also, may I assume that it is the reason behind you wanting me to bring my son here and have only my most trusted people with me, so to ensure that his existence remains secret? Asked the fire daimyo, to which Tsunade nodded too. Very well then, Tsunade, if you treat my son and ensure that he becomes well again, then I promise you that this news shall not be mentioned to anyone outside this estate and that your secret will be kept. Where I will tell no one, and I will have my people here swear never to reveal it to anyone until it is announced by you, spoke the fire daimyo. Thank you, Daimyo Dano, replied Tsunade gratefully, after which the fire daimyo then turned to look over to Naruto. I am honored to meet the son of Tsunade as well as the descendant of both the Shodaime Hokage and the Nidaime Hokage and heir to the Senju clan, spoke the fire daimyo respectfully. Thanks Oji-san, old man, it nice to meet you too, said Naruto friendly like. When the others in the room heard this, their reactions varied. The samurai and the guards tensed up and glared at the boy for speaking to their daimyo in such a disrespectful manner. Shizune was about ready to have a panic attack for what Naruto had said, since they could be all killed for what Naruto had just said. While Tsunade was cursing her son for being such a knucklehead at times like this, she had told him a dozen times to be respectful to the fire daimyo. But it seemed it didn't sink it yet, and she blamed Jiraiya influence over Naruto for this. Since she should have known that Jiraiya idiocies was contagious, since Jiraiya was like that when they were younger. Naruto, be more respectful to the fire daimyo, cried Tsunade angrily, where she then turned to the fire daimyo. Daimyo Dano, please forgive my son for what he said, he's only a boy said Tsunade quickly, trying to avoid the fire daimyo anger on her son. But before she could finish apologizing for Naruto calling him old man, she heard the fire daimyo laughing in amusement. Well, now it has been quite some time since I've been addressed by such a common title, spoke the fire daimyo with amusement. Daimyo Dano. Said one of the samurai, before the daimyo held out his hand telling the samurai to settle down. It's quite alright, I rather enjoy be called by a common title from time to time, it's refreshing, since I get rather tired of all these official titles. Said the fire daimyo as he smiled down at Naruto. Your son reminds me a bit of your old teammate Jiraiya, Tsunade. And I always did like him, smiled the fire daimyo. Not too much I hope, thought Tsunade, since if her son turned into a super pervert like Jiraiya, then she would torture and kill him in ways that would even horrify their old teammate Orochimaru. Deciding to change the subject, Tsunade decided to get down to business. Daimyo Dano, perhaps we should go to your son and see what I can do for him. The daimyo quickly became serious and nodded his head and signaled for Tsunade and Shizune to come with him out the room. As they left the room, Tsunade turned to Naruto. Naruto, why don't you go and train a little in the garden, while Shizune and I help the daimyo's son? But to her surprise, Naruto shook his head and spoke. Ka-chan, I don't really feel much like training today. Would it be okay if I go find something to read? Asked Naruto. This of course surprised Tsunade, since Naruto usually enjoyed training, but decided that it wasn't too strange either, since Naruto did enjoy reading. She then turned to the fire daimyo who had stopped with his guards and waited on her and Shizune. Excuse me, Daimyo Dano. But do you perhaps have a library here in your estate, since Naruto enjoys reading and I think he would enjoy having something new to read? At this the daimyo smiled. Of course, we have one of the largest collections of books and scrolls in Hino Kuni here on this estate. I'm certain he would find something to his liking. Where he then signaled to one of his servants that was nearby and called him over and told him to show Naruto where the library was, with Naruto. Soon enough the servant led Naruto to the library. When he entered the library he could not believe what he saw. The library itself was a massive room, where the bookshelves went almost to the ceiling and they were all filled with hundreds if not thousands of books and scrolls. The bookshelves were all along the walls and filled to the brim with books and scrolls. There were even staircases to allow someone to go to the different levels on the walls to get books, as well as ladders to climb. Naruto could also see several writing desks and chairs for people to sit on and read. Naruto could not believe the number of books and scrolls he was seeing. He did not think so many books and scrolls could all be in one place. 1. The servant then showed Naruto the index book where all the different books and scrolls were listed in the different areas they covered, as well as find out what books covered what type of information a person was looking for. It even said what row and section which book was in so that the book could be found easily. The servant then asked Naruto if he needed help finding a book that he might like, but Naruto told him he would be fine, after which the servant then left Naruto to his own devices. Once the servant had left, Naruto then opened the index book to look up information on something that he'd been wondering about for the past 3 months. After a few minutes he found what he had been looking for and found what books had the information was looking for. For the next 10 minutes Naruto went to different parts of the library to get the books that he wanted. When he was finished he had about a dozen books on a nearby reading table. He then opened up one of the large books called Healer, and she was swore to help those who were ill or injured and who asked for help. While the other being that if she said no and Fire Daimyo's son died, the repercussion to both her and Konoha would be unpleasant, to say the very least. So she decided to do the only thing she could. She told the Sandaime to tell the Fire Daimyo that she would help his son. But he would have to bring his son to his private country estate outside the capital and only have a handful of his most trusted and loyal guards and servants there. When the Sandaime told the Fire Daimyo of Tsunade's condition, he agreed to them immediately, although he was curious as to Tsunade's conditions. As the group neared the estate they saw several of the Fire Daimyo's private guards along with 2 fire samurai dressed in crimson red armor with their 4 katanas on each of their sides and masks. Once the samurai and guards saw them coming and confirmed who they were, they allowed them to enter through the main gateway of the estate. As they walked through the estate they saw the large gardens that were well trimmed and the clear pools of water with fish swimming in them and the clean white marble pathways that they were walking on. After climbing a few dozen steps and crossing a small bridge that went over a small clear stream with more fish in it, they came face to face with the large door of the main building of the estate, where the Fire Daimyo and his son were waiting for them. when they entered the main part of the estate where they met a servant, who then led them through the mansion hallway and brought them to a large empty room where they sat and waited for the fire daimyo to arrive. As they sat down, Naruto was unusually quiet. This was because Tsunade had told him he had to be on his best behavior as he was about to meet the ruler of Hinokune. And although he was fairly easygoing person, he still needed to be respectful, for they did not need to be on the bad side of a daimyo. Naruto wore the same kind of outfit that he wore when he met Killer Bee and his team, with the only new thing being different from it was that he carried the katana that Killer Bee gave him on his back, with a sling going across his chest to keep the sword on his back. When Tsunade saw Naruto with the sword, she had asked him where he had gotten it along with the Kenjutsu scrolls. Fortunately, Naruto had come up with a believable excuse, where he told her that he had met a traveling merchant that was passing through town. He then told her that he saw the sword and the scrolls, and to her how the man gave him a good offer on both the sword and the scrolls and bought them from him with some money that he had saving. Naruto had hated lying to his mother, but he knew that if he told her the truth she would go berserk and take away the sword and scroll from him, where he would never be able to get stronger with them. Tsunade had believed the answer, as there was little reason to doubt him, and was happy at last to see Naruto trying to get stronger. During the following months after getting the sword, Naruto had improved steadily and was getting better and better with using the sword. He often sparred against his clone so that he could learn quicker and learn from his mistakes, whether he beat his clone or his clone beat him. Soon enough, the fire daimyo entered the room with 4 royal guards and 2 armed samurai wearing the same kind of armor that the samurai they saw at the gate. The guards then positioned themselves around the fire daimyo while the samurai sat on their knees, where one sat on the fire daimyo's far front left while the other sat on the fire daimyo's far front right, so that if Tsunade or the others tried to attack the fire daimyo, they could intercept them before they could reach the fire daimyo. The fire daimyo himself was a man in his mid to late 50s. He was a thin and tall man with a narrow face. Once the fire daimyo was seated in front of Tsunade and the others, he then spoke in a pleasant, friendly and welcoming voice. Greetings, Tsunade-san. I am very grateful that you came to help my son, as he is in desperate need your help. Of course, Daimyo Dano, I will do whatever I can to help you, replied Tsunade respectfully. Thank you, said the fire daimyo, where he then turned to look at Shizune, who was holding Tonton in her arms and was on Tsunade left. And this must be you, apprentice Shizune, if I'm not very much mistaken, said the fire daimyo. Hi. It is an honor to meet you, Daimyo Dano, spoke Shizune respectfully and did a slight bow with the fire daimyo, waved his hand politely saying she did not need to, and smiled slightly. He then turned and looked over to Naruto, who was sitting on Tsunade's right. But I am unfamiliar as to who this young boy next to you, is he another student of yours? That you took in, asked the fire daimyo. At this question, Tsunade became hesitant to answer. Although she had expected it and knew what she needed to say, she was still hesitant to answer it, as she knew she may be putting Naruto's life in danger, where all the years that they have been hiding would have been for nothing. Before I answer you question, Daimyo Dano, did the Hokage tell you all of the conditions that had to be made when helping your son? Asked Tsunade cautiously, as she was unsure that she could trust the men in the room as well as the others in the estate. Yes, I have. I have only brought a group of about 30 servants, 20 royal guards and 12 of my samurai here. I trust them all without question, as they have all served me loyally for many years, replied the fire daimyo with his eyebrows slightly risen up. Since when he first heard Tsunade's condition from the Sandaime, he was curious as to why Tsunade had asked for these conditions. Now that she was here with an unknown boy, his curiosity was piqued even more, since it was oblivious that Tsunade's cautious nature was linked to the young boy next to her. At this, Tsunade sighed and remained quiet for a minute or two, preparing herself for what she had to say. The boy next to me, Daimyo Dano, is named Naruto. Senju Naruto to be more precise, and he is my son, said Tsunade. When the fire daimyo heard this, he was naturally shocked to say the least, where both his eyebrows went right up into the air where they were hidden behind his headdress that he was wearing. Even the fire daimyo's guards and samurai were equally shocked at the news that Tsunade of the Sannin had a child. Once the fire daimyo got over his shock, he began to chuckle. My. This is quite a shock. I'm surprised that I'm only learning this now and not years ago, since I would have expected news as monumental as this to be no long by now. That is because no one knows that I have had a child, Daimyo Dano. Very few people even know this, and I would like it to be kept this way, if you will, Daimyo Dano, spoke Tsunade, which caused the daimyo to raise his eyebrows again curiously. Oh. And may I ask why you wish to keep such happy news hidden from everyone, especially from Konoha? Since I would be certain that the people as well as the ninjas there would be overjoyed at the news that you had a son and that your clan line can still continue on, asked the daimyo. The reason being Daimyo Dano is that there are many enemies outside Konoha who would like nothing more than to attack my son to hurt me or to use him for their own means. As to why Konoha does not know is simply because I wanted my son to be raised like a normal child and not be spoiled by the village simply because he is my son and is the heir to my clan. Replied Tsunade. At this news the fire daimyo hummed a bit and brought his hand up to his chin as he was thinking over Tsunade reasoning. HHMM. Yes, I can understand your reasoning Tsunade, and you do have the right to how you raise your own child. Also may I assume that it is the reason behind you wanting me to bring my son here and have only my most trusted people with me, so to ensure that his existence remains secret? Asked the fire daimyo, to which Tsunade nodded too. Very well then Tsunade, if you treat my son and ensure that he becomes well again. Then I promise you that this news shall not be mentioned to anyone outside this estate and that your secret will be kept. Where I will tell no one, and I will have my people here swear never to reveal it to anyone until it is announced by you, spoke the fire daimyo. Thank you Daimyo Dano, replied Tsunade gratefully, after which the fire daimyo then turned to look over to Naruto. I am honored to meet the son of Tsunade as well as the descendant of both the Shodaime Hokage and the Nidaime Hokage and heir to the Senju clan, spoke the fire daimyo respectfully. Thanks Oji-san, old man, it nice to meet you too, said Naruto friendly like. When the others in the room heard this, their reactions varied. The samurai and the guards tensed up and glared at the boy for speaking to their daimyo in such a disrespectful manner. Shizune was about ready to have a panic attack for what Naruto had said, since they could be all killed for what Naruto had just said. While Tsunade was cursing her son for being such a knucklehead at times like this, she had told him a dozen times to be respectful to the fire daimyo. But it seemed it didn't sink it yet, and she blamed Jiraiya influence over Naruto for this. Since she should have known that Jiraiya idiocies was contagious, since Jiraiya was like that when they were younger. Naruto. Be more respectful to the fire daimyo, cried Tsunade angrily, where she then turned to the fire daimyo. Daimyo Dano, please forgive my son for what he said, he's only a boy said Tsunade quickly, trying to avoid the fire daimyo anger on her son. But before she could finish apologizing for Naruto calling him old man, she heard the fire daimyo laughing in amusement. Well, now it has been quite some time since I've been addressed by such a common title, spoke the fire daimyo with amusement. Daimyo Dano. Said one of the samurai, before the daimyo held out his hand telling the samurai to settle down. It's quite alright, I rather enjoy be called by a common title from time to time, it's refreshing, since I get rather tired of all these official titles. Said the fire daimyo as he smiled down at Naruto. Your son reminds me a bit of your old teammate Jiraiya, Tsunade. And I always did like him, smiled the fire daimyo. Not too much I hope, thought Tsunade, since if her son turned into a super pervert like Jiraiya, then she would torture and kill him in ways that would even horrify their old teammate Orochimaru. Deciding to change the subject, Tsunade decided to get down to business. Daimyo Dano, perhaps we should go to your son and see what I can do for him. The daimyo quickly became serious and nodded his head and signaled for Tsunade and Shizune to come with him out the room. As they left the room, Tsunade turned to Naruto. Naruto, why don't you go and train a little in the garden, while Shizune and I help the daimyo's son? But to her surprise, Naruto shook his head and spoke. Ka-chan, I don't really feel much like training today, would it be okay if I go find something to read? Asked Naruto. This of course surprised Tsunade, since Naruto usually enjoyed training, but decided that it wasn't too strange either, since Naruto did enjoy reading. She then turned to the fire daimyo who had stopped with his guards and waited on her and Shizune. Excuse me Daimyo Dano. But do you perhaps have a library here in your estate, since Naruto enjoys reading and I think he would enjoy having something new to read? At this the daimyo smiled. Of course we have one of the largest collections of books and scrolls in Hino Kuni here on this estate. I'm certain he would find something to his liking. Where he then signaled to one of his servants that was nearby and called him over and told him to show Naruto where the library was, with Naruto. Soon enough the servant led Naruto to the library. When he entered the library he could not believe what he saw. The library itself was a massive room, where the bookshelves went almost to the ceiling and they were all filled with hundreds if not thousands of books and scrolls. The bookshelves were all along the walls and filled to the brim with books and scrolls. There were even staircases to allow someone to go to the different levels on the walls to get books, as well as ladders to climb. Naruto could also see several writing desks and chairs for people to sit on and read. Naruto could not believe the number of books and scrolls he was seeing. He did not think so many books and scrolls could all be in one place. 1. The servant then showed Naruto the index book where all the different books and scrolls were listed in the different areas they covered, as well as find out what books covered what type of information a person was looking for. It even said what row and section which book was in so that the book could be found easily. The servant then asked Naruto if he needed help finding a book that he might like, but Naruto told him he would be fine, after which the servant then left Naruto to his own devices. Once the servant had left, Naruto then opened the index book to look up information on something that he'd been wondering about for the past 3 months. After a few minutes he found what he had been looking for and found what books had the information was looking for. For the next 10 minutes Naruto went to different parts of the library to get the books that he wanted. When he was finished he had about a dozen books on a nearby reading table. He then opened up one of the large books called History of the Shinobi World, where he then quickly scanned the book and found the chapter he was looking for, which was called Bijus, Tailed Beasts, and Jinchurikis, Power of Human Sacrifice. Naruto had become interested in the Bijus since the most well-known abilities of his Makuten powers was the ability to suppress the powers of the Biju and control them. He also became interested in Jinchuriki after meeting Killer Bee and Yujiro, since they were both Jinchurikis and they both held demons that his ancestor defeated and captured. For the next few hours Naruto learned as much as he could about Jinchurikis and the demons they held, as well as the connection they had to Naruto's clan. During that time Naruto learned that Bijus were large, living forms of chakra, sometimes referred to as Chakura no Bakemono chakra monsters, giving them power that far outmatches most shinobis. However, he also learned that even with their immense strength it was tempered due to their bestial nature, which restricts them from being intelligent enough to use it effectively. But when the Bijus are sealed into humans who are called Jinchurikis, they are able to benefit from the knowledge of their hosts, giving them the ability to speak and better utilize their powers. It was after learning this that Naruto discovered how Jinchurikis came into existence. He had learned that when his ancestor Senju Hashirama, the Shodaime Hokage, the first Hokage, had captured 8 of the 9 Bijus using his Makuten, wood release techniques. His ancestor spread them to the other, newly formed villages: the Iwagakure, the Hidden Stone, the Kirigakure, the Hidden Mist, the Tsunagakure, the Hidden Sand, the Takigakure, the Hidden Waterfall, and the Kumagakure, the Hidden Cloud, in an attempt to maintain peace and equalize the powers between the shinobi nations. Naruto learned that the Ichibi no Shukaku, the one-tailed Shukaku, was sent to Tsunagakure, the Nanabi no Kabutamashi, the seven-tailed horn beetle, was sent to Takigakure. The Sanbi no Kayade game, the three-tailed giant turtle, and the Rakubi no Namakuji, the six-tailed slug, were sent to Kirigakure. The Gobi no Irokama, the five-tailed dolphin horse, and the Yanbi no Saru, the four-tailed monkey, were sent to Iwagakure, and the Nibi no Bakaniko, two-tailed monster cat, and the Hachibi no Kaijayu, eight-tailed giant ox, were sent to Kumagakure. While the Kyubi no Yoko, nine-tailed demon fox, remained free, as it was never caught by the Shodaime Hokage. Although he did defeated it when he fought Uchiha Madara, who had the Kyubi under his control, thanks to the power of his main Gekyo Sharingan. But the Kyubi was later on killed by the Yondaime Hokage, the fourth Hokage, when it attacked Konoha 10 years ago. Unfortunately, giving each village a Biju did not stop the outbreak of the First Great Shinobi World War, where both he and Naruto's other ancestor Senju Tobirama, the Nidaime Hokage, the second Hokage, died during it. Where after his death the other shinobi nations discovered that they couldn't control the Biju by themselves, and the beast began to run wild along the elemental continent. The shinobi nations then decided that the only way they could stop them and still use their powers was to seal them into humans. Where they created Jinchurikis, since to seal the demon into a human cost another their life, whether it be their sealer or someone else. Naruto then learned that when the person is made into a Jinchuriki it is when they are very young, so that their bodies can develop to handle the excess chakra they get from their Biju and handle the changes to their bodies that happens from carrying a certain Biju. He then learned that one of the things they get from carrying a Biju is unique abilities that only they can do. The most famous and well-known of these abilities is Ichibi no Shukaku Jinchuriki, ability to manipulate sand. Another noted fact was that all Jinchurikis have certain unique appearance, where certain traits from the Biju would be added to the appearance to the host. For example, the Ichibi no Shukaku Jinchuriki would have dark rings around his eyes. Naruto also sadly learned that in most places except for Kumagakure, Jinchurikis were naturally hated. despised and feared by their own people, making them into outcasts due to people's fears of their demons. As Naruto learned more and more about Jinchurikis and their bijus, he could not help but feel sympathetic to Jinchurikis for their hard lives and did not feel that they deserved to be treated as outcast for something that was not their fault. He also could not help but feel somewhat responsible for their plight, since it was his ancestor that inadvertently led to their harsh lives, even though he had given the villages the bijus to maintain peace in the lands. After a while, Naruto decided to find out more about the Kyuubi attack on Konoha, since he found it curious as to how the Yondaime Hokage killed the most powerful of all the bijus, when his own ancestor the Sandaime Hokage could not with his Makutan powers, where all he could do was seal them away. As Naruto looked through all the records, books and scrolls on the battle against the Kyuubi, he found little to nothing that explained how the Yondaime did it. All that the books, scrolls and records said was that the Yondaime used some kind of powerful forbidden jutsu that he created and that it cost him his life to do it, nothing more. None of them even gave the name of the jutsu that he used to do it. After going through all the records, scroll and books he could, Naruto decided to go at it a different angle, where he might find a clue if he looked up the Yondaime himself and learn as much as he could about him. After tidying up all the books, scrolls and records he had taken out and putting them back where they belonged, he then went back to the index book to get all he could find on the Yondaime Hokage, although he already knew a lot about the Yondaime, from what he had heard from Jiraiya. Since he had taught the Yondaime, there was still much he did not know about him. Once Naruto had gotten all he could on the Yondaime Hokage, he opened up the first book he had found, called The World's Greatest Shinobis. As Naruto looked through the book to find what he wanted, he could not help but take note of several other shinobi names and their faces from their pictures on the pages about them, such as his own ancestors Senju Hashirama and Senju Tobirama, his ancestor's greatest rival and nemesis, Uchiha Madara, and his own younger brother Uchiha Izuna, too, as well as Sanshao no Hanzo, Hanzo of the Salamander, the man who had defeated his mother, Godfather Jiraiya, and their former teammate Orochimaru, and gave them their title the Densetsu no Sannin, legendary 3 ninja. He also saw his mother's and godfather old sensei Sarutobi Hiruzen, who was known as Shinobi no Kami, god of shinobis, the professor, and the Sandaime Hokage, the third Hokage. After him, Naruto saw his mother, his godfather, and their former teammate Orochimaru. He even saw some other people he was familiar with, like Kakuzu of Takigakure, who had fought his ancestor Senju Hashirama. He also noted Chio the puppet master, who had a kind of rivalry with his mother. Naruto also saw Killer Bee and his brother E with Makron the Yondaime Raikage, along with Yagura the Yondaime Mizukage, who was also a Jinchuriki like Killer Bee and Yujiro. Not to mention the Sandaime Kazekage of Suna, as well as Akasuna no Sasori, Sasori of the Red Sand, and the Sandaime Tsuchikage, the third Tsuchikage, Ryotenbin no Inoki, Inoki of both scales. But the most notable of them all, though, were Uchiha Itachi, who was the youngest person mentioned in it since he was only 16 in it, and the Rikudo Sennin, the Sage of the Six Paths, who was also known as the Shinobi no Kami as well, and was the founder of ninjutsu in the ninja world, as well as the strongest shinobi to ever exist. But at last Naruto finally found the Yondaime Hokage. When Naruto found the Yondaime Hokage, he was shocked beyond belief when he saw the Yondaime's picture, since he had never seen the Yondaime's picture before, and when he saw it, he immediately saw the almost near mirror image of him in the Yondaime, with the expectation of skin color where Naruto's was lighter than the Yondaime's, and his hair color was a more lighter shade of blonde like his mother, although his was still brighter than hers. His eyes' shape were also different, but same color, along with a few small minor facial difference. The resemblance was still unmistakable, and it was almost like looking at an older version of himself. For a few minutes Naruto just stared at the photo of the Yondaime. Naruto knew enough about genetics from his medical studies to know that the facial resemblance between him and the Yondaime was no coincidence, since the resemblance was too strong. As Naruto studied the Yondaime face more and more, he became more convinced with what he realized. The Yondaime was his father. Everything fitted the resemblance between him and the Yondaime, the fact that the Yondaime died on the very day he was born, which was what his mother had told him. The fact that Jiraiya was his godfather, since not only was he his mother's teammate but was also his father's sensei, also the fact that his father had an affinity to wind and lightning. Even though children did not always inherit the same affinities as their parents and could have completely different one, it was still not out of the question that children could still inherit their parents' affinity. Naruto knew he got earth and water from his mother's side, since like with the Uchiha clan being affiliated with fire due to being so proficient in it, The Senju were well known to be affiliated with earth and water. Since the two elements combined to create his great-grandfather Makuton powers, and his great-great-uncle was known for his high skill in water jutsu. Not to mention his mother had both elements, but still lacked the bloodline to do Makuton, so it made sense that he got his other two elements from his father. The final proof was the fact that when he was younger he remembered one or two times when Jiraiya was training him, and how Jiraiya had accidentally called him Minato before quickly saying something different to cover up his mistake. At the time Naruto had passed it off as nothing, but now it made sense since considering the resemblance, it would be only naturally that he would remind Jiraiya of his father when he was younger. Since Jiraiya had trained his father. But still some other things did not make sense. The first being, why neither Shizune, Jiraiya nor his mother had told him who his father was, although he could understand their need to keep secret about being the Yondame's son. Since he knew he had to keep secret about being the son of Tsunade and his Makuton power, but still if he could keep secret about those things surely he could have kept secret about who his father was. Also the other thing that didn't make sense was the fact that his mother always got angry at the mere mention of his father. Since when Naruto asked about his father his mother would get angry and change the subject. At first when he was younger Naruto had thought that she was just sad at the memory of his father dying. But he soon realized that the memory made her angry at that she was angry at his father about something. Naruto pondered over this for a while trying to think what would make his mother hate his father so much. He knew the Yondaime hadn't abandoned them since he died when Naruto was born, and he knew the Yondaime hadn't renounced them since no one knew he even existed as either the Yondaime's son or Tsunade son, let alone both. Besides from all the things Naruto had heard from Jiraiya and from what he read about him, the Yondaime would never renounce his own child and its mother simply because he was born out of wedlock. As Naruto thought about why more and more it suddenly came down on him like a ton of bricks, the fact that the Yondaime was able to kill a Biju when his ancestor could not. The fact that he was born with unusually high amount of chakra for a boy his age, much like with Yujiro. The fact that his father died to kill the Kyuubi. The reason as to why he had whisker-shaped birthmarks on each his cheeks and why they disappeared soon after awakening his Makuton powers, and why he was able to heal so quickly and recover so quickly from chakra exhaustion, and why he had never gotten sick in a day in his life. Not to mention why his mother hates the mere mention of his father, since it would now make perfect sense as to why she got so angry at her father, since his father had made him into a Jinchuriki. The Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi no Yoko. It all made perfect sense since normal people born with perfect chakra control had low levels of chakra, which was why women mostly had perfect chakra control. It also made sense why he healed so quickly and never got sick, as well as recover so quickly from chakra exhaustion. Since the Kyuubi was known for having a powerful healing factor, which it showed when it battled his father the Yondaime. Also the markings on his cheeks that looked like whiskers from a cat, dog, or a fox, which disappeared soon after he awakened his Makuton bloodline, since it would make sense that his Makuton powers would suppress certain influences from the Kyuubi. Not to mention it would only be natural that his mother hated his father, since considering the life that most Jinchurikis have had, as well as the life he might have had he stayed in Konoha, and if the people of Konoha knew he was the Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi, chances were he'd be an outcast there as well. Which was why Naruto could not help but be slightly angry at his father for making him into a Jinchuriki. Even as Naruto became more convinced with this new revelations now, he still needed to be certain, and from knowing a little about sealing from his lessons with Jiraiya, Naruto knew that there would have to be some kind of seal on his body that would show that he was a Jinchuriki, since a seal that held a Biju. Better yet, the strongest of all the 9 Bijus, the Kyuubi, would have to be placed on him to keep it in check. Knowing that the seal would have to be on his upper body, Naruto took off his sword that was on his back, his jacket, and then his shirt, showing a slim but fairly well-built upper body for a 10-year-old, which was thanks to all his training. He then went over to a nearby mirror and stood in front of it, since he knew that he would have to release chakra around his body for the seal to show. Since it was obvious that it could only been seen when he released chakra, since he had never seen any kind of seal on his body before. Once Naruto released some of his chakra around his body, he saw a large seal appear on his stomach, confirming what Naruto knew. He was the Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi no Yoko. When Naruto took a better look at the seal, he couldn't make heads or tails of it, since from what little sealing knowledge he knew, Naruto knew that the complexity of the seal was far too advanced for him to understand right now. But he could tell at least it was really strong due to be so complex, and because it was able to hold and contain the Kyuubi, the strongest of the Bijus. After a few minutes, Naruto quickly put his shirt, jacket and sword back on and then put back all the scrolls and books he had taken, after which when he was done, he decided to leave the library and get some fresh air since he had a lot on his mind right now and needed to clear his head a little and sort things out a few minutes later. As Naruto walked down the open hallway that looked out to the garden on his right-hand side, he could see the beauty of the well-maintained garden. Unfortunately, Naruto was too lost in thought of what he had learned and discovered about being the son of the Yondaime and being the Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi to admire it. Naruto was tempted to go find his mother and confront her about what he had discovered and demanded why she, Shizune and Jiraiya never told him. But he decided against it since he knew this wasn't the time or the place for something like this. Also, he knew he had to wait and think up an excuse as to why he was even learning about Bijus and learned about Jinchurikis. He knew that if he didn't handle this carefully, then he would have to reveal his meeting with Killer Bee and the others, and that was something that Naruto wanted to keep hidden for now at least. As Naruto thought more about what he was to do, let alone how he should feel about being the host of one of the most powerful and feared creatures in the world and never even know about it until now, he failed to pay attention to his surroundings and what was going on around him, since he crashed into someone who was just coming out from the hallway to his left, where they both fell to the ground, with Naruto on top of the person. "Oh, sorry, my fault, I wasn't paying attention to where I was going," said Naruto, as he then looked to see who he had bumped into. When he looked, he saw that he had crashed into a young girl who looked to be about his age. She had yellowish blonde hair that fell down to her shoulder blades. She had large emerald green eyes and well-sculpted face that was quite pretty for a girl her age. She was just slightly shorter than Naruto and wore a bright pink formal kimono with white oval-shaped spots and sunflower designs decorated on it. As Naruto was about to get off her and help her up, he was suddenly grabbed by the collar and thrown off her and landed on his rear, several feet away from her. When Naruto got back up and looked over to where he bumped into the girl, he saw two men standing over her and helping her up, after which the two men then stood in front of her and glared at Naruto. The first man was a tall tin man wearing a traditional guard's uniform of the royal family of Hino-Kune, with a long katana on his left side. He had blue-black hair and his eyes were icy blue and he had strong sculpted face. The other man was a muscular-built man and wore the same guard's uniform that the other guard wore. He also wore a pair of large sunglasses. The man also had very little hair on his head as it was mainly bald except for the small mohawk in the shape of a lightning bolt and a muscular face. "Hey, what the hell is the deal?" cried Naruto angrily from being grabbed onto and then being thrown off. "How dare you ask such a question, you filthy vagabond, after you crashed into Urarachiyohime, princess favorite granddaughter of his lordship the fire daimyo, and land on top of her," spoke the Tina man angrily as he glared at Naruto. "It was an accident. It not like I meant to, besides I said I was sorry," said Naruto while at the same time cursing his bad luck. Since of all the people he had to crash into the fire daimyo's granddaughter. You think that a simple apology is enough for disrespecting Urarachiyohime in such a manner? You should be on your hands and knees begging her forgiveness and pray she does not send you to the dungeon for the rest of your life, cried the Tin Man angrily. Look, I don't care if she is the fire daimyo's granddaughter or even if she was his sister, neither of us was hurt and I said I was sorry and that should be enough. Besides, there is no way in hell I going to go down on my knees and beg, said Naruto as he was starting to lose his cool as these guys were getting on his nerves. You insolent child, you shall pay for your disrespect, cried the tin guard as he drew his katana and charged forward. Naruto let the man charge at him and once he was close enough, Naruto quickly ducked under the man's sword slash, where he then grabbed the guard's wrist and twirled around, so that his back was facing the guard, whereas Naruto twirled around he twisted the man's wrist causing him to let go his sword. After which Naruto then took a step back and kicked the man hard in the shin where he lost his footing, which allowed Naruto to flip the guard forward and causing the guard to land hard on his back when he hit the floor. As soon as the other guard saw what happened to his comrade, he charged forward and drew out his sword. Seeing this, Naruto quickly sidestepped the guard just as he was about to attack him and let him pass him by. At the same time that Naruto let the guard go by him, Naruto stuck out his leg so to trip the guard and making him fall forward and crash headfirst into a nearby railing. Before either of the guards could pick themselves up off the floor, Naruto quickly made a shadow clone of himself. where he had his clone sit of the tin guard's chest and point a kunai at the guard's face. At the same time Naruto jumped on the larger man's back and pointed his own kunai at the back of the guard's head. When the two guards felt the kunais, both of them knew they had been defeated, although neither of them could still believe that they had been defeated by a mere boy. This could be especially said for Princess Rurochiyo, who could not believe that a boy about her own age had defeated both her personal guards Kenruch and Ryu so easily with very little real effort. Before the princess could even try and order Naruto to release her guards, someone else spoke from the other end of the hallway. You certainly were speaking the truth, Tsunade, when you said he get himself into interesting situations. When Rurochiyo, Naruto and the two guards named Kenruch and Ryu turned to see who had spoke, they were surprised to see the fire daimyo along with his samurai bodyguards and other royal guards. Along with Tsunade, Shizune and Tonton. Naruto, what do you think you are doing? Asked an annoyed Tsunade. Teaching these guys a lesson in humility and in manners, replied Naruto with a slight scowl, since they had attacked him first and he was only defending himself, so he wasn't going to let these guys get him into trouble for something they started. At his answer, Tsunade could only sign, since her son did have a short temper when people got him angry or annoyed, much like herself. Naruto, please get off them. We don't need you starting trouble here. At this Naruto scowled slightly but nodded and dispelled his clone and god of the guard he was on. Now then, may I ask what all this commotion is about? Asked the fire daimyo with a bit of amusement in his voice. Since it wasn't every day that he saw a young 10-year-old boy take down and defeat two of his best guards, with little to no trouble, and he had to admit it was quite entertaining to watch. My lord, as Rurochiyo Hyman, we were on our way to visit her uncle, your other son Crown Prince Akihito, who as you know already is gravely ill. Where on our way this lowly commoner crashed into Rurochiyo Hyman, landed on top of her and then insulted her by not apologizing to her and then attacked us, spoke the tin guard named Kenruch. That a lie, cried Naruto. I did apologize, they just got angry because I refused to go on my knees and beg like a dog, and when I refused they attacked me with their swords and I just defended myself. At this Tsunade narrowed her eyes and glared at the two guards, who could not help but flinch at the look Tsunade was giving them. Is this true? Asked Tsunade as she glared at the two guards. Since she would not stand for anyone attacking her son, whether they be Kage or daimyo or any kind of person, and those who foolish did would pay the butcher's bill for doing so. Well, yes, sort of, said Kenruch slightly nervously as he tried to keep his nerve under Tsunade's frightening glare. But still the boy should have bowed down and begged forgiveness for crashing into the princess and for not watching where he was going and disrespecting his betters. At this Tsunade began to growl and crack her knuckles as she got ready to lay a beat down on the two guards. When the two guards saw this, they began to get very nervous. Deciding to avoid any needless destruction of his home and to avoid his guards from being killed or being beaten to an inch of their lives for a foolish misunderstanding, the fire daimyo decided to intervene and signaled Tsunade to stop. Tsunade-san, if I may, before you go and beat my granddaughter's personal guards, would you please wait and let me explain to them their folly to them and give them a chance to apologize for acting so rashly and foolishly. Since they are very loyal and protective to my granddaughter, and it would upset her greatly to lose them and see them hurt, and it would be also very hard to find guards as loyal and proactive to my granddaughter as they are, said the fire daimyo. After a moment or so Tsunade relented and nodded her head that she would not attack. At this the fire daimyo then turned to Kenruch and Ryu. Tell me, Kenruch, before you confronted this boy, did you perchance ask his name or who he was? No, my lord, since there was no need to, since it was quite obvious that the boy is a commoner by the way he is dressed. My guess is he's some low-rank ordinary genin from Konoha, spoke Kenruch. At this Naruto just glared at Kenruch, saying he was some low-rank ordinary genin. Since for one thing he wasn't even a genin of Konoha, and he was most definitely not low, since he was skilled enough to defeat them both easily. The fire daimyo of course then smiled, since he was going to enjoy the looks on both guards' faces for what he was about to tell them next. Well then, Kenruch, if you believe that, then I'm afraid you're very much mistaken, since this boy is no low-rank ordinary genin from Konoha, since for one thing he is not even a ninja of Konoha. Also he is not any ordinary boy either, since this boy is Senju Naruto, son of Tsunade the Slug Princess, member of the Densetsu no Sannin, legendary 3 ninjas. Making him the great-grandson of Senju Hashirama, the Shodaime Hokage, first Hokage, and the great-grandnephew of Senju Tobirama, the Nidaime Hokage, second Hokage, and he is the sole heir to the Senju clan, spoke the fire daimyo with a slight smirk at the shocked looks on his granddaughter and her guards' faces. Both Kenrochan and Ryu were both naturally shocked since the Senju clan was the closest thing that Konoha had to royalty. Since it was the Senju clan who practically created the village by themselves along with some small bit of help from their allies the Uchiha clan and several other allied clans. Also, even though the Senju clan weren't really a royal family, they still held with the same respect and reverence that other royal families or noble clans were held in by all shinobi and non-shinobi nations. Especially in Hai no Kuni, since everyone knew the close ties that the Senju clan had with Hai no Kuni royal family. As it was the Senju clan who first negotiated the setting up of the first hidden shinobi village in Hai no Kuni. So as far as social ranking was concerned, Naruto held the same social ranking as a visiting prince from another nation. Not to mention both men were very familiar with Tsunade's infamous reputation and short temper. Where both men knew they were in a lot of trouble with her since they knew that Tsunade would not take well the fact that they tired to attack her son, which would result in very severe repercussions on them from her. When they realized their grave error in judgment, both guards immediately went on their knees and bowed their heads down to Naruto. Forgive us, Senju-sama, for our error in judgment. We deeply apologize for our mistake and beg your forgiveness. We swear never to make the same mistake again. Spoke Kenrochas, and Ryu just kept his head down. Fine, it's okay, you don't need to bow down to me. A simple apology would have been okay, and call me Naruto, not Senju-sama, it'd make me sound like some stuffy spoiled kid. Said Naruto as he waved the two that it was okay. Yes, of course, Naruto-sama, and thank you, spoke Kenroch as he and Ryu bowed down to Naruto again, which just caused him to sigh in annoyance. Since he knew that this would be the best he could get from them. Deciding to change the subject from him, Naruto then turned to his mother, Kachan, how is the Oji-san's son, and will he be okay? Sighing at her son for calling the fire daimyo old man again and ignore the shocked and outraged looks on the princess and her guards' faces, Tsunade decided to answer the question. The prince needs some serious treatment to get over his illness, and I have just given him something to help break his fever, but the illness itself won't be anything that Shizune and I can't handle. Although we will have to stay here for a little while, so that we can handle the prince's treatment and help his recovery, but he should be fine soon enough. The fire daimyo was just leading us to the medical room and his herbal room when we saw you with the guards here. Oh. That good, replied Naruto neutrally, unlike his normal self, which caused Tsunade, Shizune and even the fire daimyo to raise their eyebrows in curiosity. As to Naruto's sudden change in attitude from earlier. But before any of them could ask what was wrong with him, Princess Rurochiyo suddenly spoke up for the first time. Excuse us, but is it true, about we have just heard that our uncle Akihito will recover, asked Princess Rurochiyo. 3. Yes, Princess, you uncle, she should be fine, replied Tsunade respectfully. Then we thank you on behalf of our uncle. I'm certain my grandfather will reward you well for your services, replied Princess Rurochiyo before she then made a passing curious glance at Naruto before turning to her guards. Come, we are hungry and would like something sweet to eat, said the princess as she walked away from Tsunade and the other. Yes, of course, princess. What is it that you would like to eat? Asked Kenroch as he and Ryu quickly got up and followed the princess. Spoiled much? Spoke Naruto as he didn't like the princess' attitude much at how she treated his mother like she were some local second-rate healer that healed someone just for money, when his mother did it as both a favor and because it was the right thing to do. Naruto, cried Tsunade angrily at her son for insulting the fire daimyo's granddaughter right in front of him. Now Tsunade-san, that quite alright, what your son said is not untrue, I'm afraid. I will not deny that my granddaughter is a bit snobbish, spoiled and a bit self-centered, since she has gotten nearly everything she ever wanted from a very young age. But she is still a good and sweet girl at heart, said the fire daimyo. At this, Naruto just shrugged, not really caring, before he then turned to his mother, Kachan, if it's okay with you, I'm going to train with my sword for a while. Okay, Naru-chan, just don't overexert yourself, said Tsunade, to which Naruto just nodded and walked off to the garden to train a few days later. For the next few days, Naruto spent most of his time reading in the library and training by himself, as well as even thinking over what he had learned, since it was still a lot to take in. During that time when they weren't treating the fire daimyo's son, Tsunade and Shizune had helped Naruto in his training, and on more than a few occasions they had asked him what was bothering him, since they could see that something was wrong with him. But when they asked him, Naruto would either say nothing was wrong or would just change the subject. The reason to this was because Naruto did not want to raise the subject to him being the Yandame's son. as well as the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi no Yoko while on the Fire Daimyo country estate since it could cause a scene if someone overheard them talking about it. Also during those few days Naruto had been unaware that someone had been watching him when he trained. This person was Princess Rurochiyo, who after meeting Naruto and seeing how he defeated her guards so easily became interested in him. After she had met him Rurochiyo decided to learn as much as she could about Naruto and his clan. 2 days after first meeting Naruto, Rurochiyo discovered little to nothing about Naruto himself as her guards and her servants could find next to nothing about him. Since none of them even knew that Tsunade had a son until he came with her. But despite that she did learn a great deal about Naruto's ancestry as well as his clan. She learned that his clan were considered the strongest clan in the world. Before the founding of the hidden villages and during a time called the Shinobi Clan's Wars and were still considered by many as the strongest Shinobi clan even despite the fact that there were only 2 members left. She also learned that Naruto came from a long line of powerful shinobis where his great-grandfather was Senju Hashirama, the main founder of Konoha, as well as the Shodaime Hokage, and was considered the strongest shinobi of his time. Naruto was also the great-grandnephew of the Nidaime Hokage Senju Tobirama, younger brother of Hashirama, and he was considered the strongest shinobi in Konoha of his time when he was the Hokage. While his mother Tsunade was hailed as both the strongest and most beautiful kunoichi in the world as well as the greatest medical ninja and healer. She was also a member of the Densetsu no Sanin whose fame and powers were known by all. Altogether, just from his mother's side of the family, Naruto had a great deal of potential, and just as her guard Kenroch had told her, Naruto was basically royalty in Konoha much like she was here. After learning all this, Rurochiyo decided she wanted to watch Naruto as she was curious as to what type of person he was, since despite the fact that he came from noble clan, as noble as a shinobi clan can get in the shinobi world, he did not act like any boy she knew from a noble family. In fact, he acted the complete opposite from them. He hated being called Naruto-sama or Senju-sama by servants. He was polite to everyone, and she had even seen him help a young servant girl pick up broken plates she had dropped when she accidentally tripped. She also saw him go to the kitchen to make his own lunch instead of ordering a servant to do it. It was because of all these things that made Rurochiyo become more and more curious about him. After a few days of just watching Naruto and after losing her guards again so that she could be alone, she decided to go up to him and speak to him. When she came up to Naruto, who was so focused on training that she did not notice her until she coughed loudly enough so that Naruto would notice her. When Naruto turned around and saw her, he raised one of his eyebrows in curiosity as to why she was here. "Is there something I can help you with, Rurochiyo-hime?" asked Naruto. "Yes, there is, Naruto-sama. We would like to offer you the distinct honor and privilege of inviting you to have afternoon tea with us now," spoke Rurochiyo with the high upper-class tone that a person of royalty would often speak with. "That is very kind of you to offer, Rurochiyo-hime, and I would be very happy to take your offer of tea. But I am in the middle of my training session right now and I would like to finish it first. But in a few hours' time when I'm finished and I have cleaned up, I would be happy to have tea with you then," said Naruto as he tried to be as polite as possible. Unfortunately, the princess did not take well to Naruto declining her invitation to tea now and to have it later, well, as she found it to be an insult to her. Since whenever she wanted something she wanted it done right away and no one had ever refused her anything. "How dare you? You should be honored that we find you worthy of having tea with us. We are the granddaughter of the Fire Daimyo, and although you may be someone of somewhat noble blood in your speck of a village, you are still not of royal blood. Now I demand that you come with me now before I lose my patience and decide that you are no longer worthy of being in my company," demanded the princess. Naruto simply ignored the princess' demand as he did not wish to deal with the spoilt girl, who although was a year older than him was still like a little child that did not like it when it was refused something. Of course, when the princess saw that Naruto was ignoring her, she got even angrier and started to throw a tantrum, since no one had ever ignored her before, and when Naruto did it infuriated her. "Are you even listening to us? Do you not even know that with a single word we can have you cast in irons and thrown into the deepest darkest dungeon for your insolence?" ranted the princess. "Rant all you what, princess, you may be the granddaughter of the Fire Daimyo. But I highly doubt he put me in a dungeon for simply not doing what you want me to do. Besides, all your ranting proves what I thought you were from when I first met you," scoffed Naruto. And what's that? Said Rurochiyo angrily. It proves that you're nothing more but a spoiled little girl who thinks that just because she the granddaughter of a powerful daimyo that the world revolves around her and that everyone in it is at her beck and call just because she was lucky even to be born in nobility. I beat you even stayed in this estate your entire life and never even go out of it, sneered Naruto with just made the princess angrier. So what if we haven't? Why would we need to go out and mix with you commoners when we have all that we need here? Nobility does not mix with lowly commoners, scoffed the princess. At this Naruto shook his head finding Rurochiyo belief foolish and almost humorous in a way. There you go again just proving me right at how foolish you are. Didn't you ever wonder how royalty like your family ever came to be? No one is born noble, your own ancestors were merely commoners like everyone else at one point. Until they became powerful leaders by getting people to follow them, which is how any noble retain power, since you nobles are only allowed to have the lives you have because of the hard work of other people who you are supposed to lead and help protect and rule. In the real world where people like me live in, you must work hard to get what you want, and I know that spoiled little boys and girls like you, who have been sheltered all their lives in golden palaces and mansions like this, wouldn't survive a single day outside these walls by themselves, said Naruto with a sneer. Princess Rurochiyo sheeted in rage at Naruto remark. We see about that. I show you that I can do anything you can do, cried Rurochiyo angrily before stomping away. Seeing this, Naruto just shook his head at the foolishness of the princess and decided to forget all about the princess and continue on with his training 2 hours later. After Naruto had finished his training, he decided to head to the kitchen and get a bite to eat since he was hungry after all of his training. Just when he was about to turn around the corner, two people who were running collided into him as they were turning around the corner. "Ah!" cried Naruto as he rubbed his rear and stood up again. When he looked up, he saw that he collided with Kenruchen and Ryu, who were now picking themselves up off the floor. "Hey Kenruchen and Ryu, what's the hurry?" asked Naruto when he saw the princess two personally guards friendly, since he had become friendly enough with the two guards over the past few days despite their rough start. When the two guards saw who they had collided into, they both quickly bowed respectfully to Naruto. "Naruto-sama, forgive us for colliding into you. We are in search of Rurochiyo, since we have been unable to find for several hours. Have you seen her at all lately?" spoke Kenruch. "Yeah, I saw her about 2 hours ago, but we kind of got into an argument when I told her I was busy training and couldn't have tea with her at the time," spoke Naruto. At this, both guards grew concerned about the princess and were about to start running again to find the princess. But before they could, another servant ran up to them and Naruto holding a piece of torn cloth. "Kenruch-san. And then Ryu-san. I have just found this torn piece of Rurochiyo kimono near hanging from a tree branch next to the estate wall. The princess must have climbed the tree and left the estate," spoke the servant. "Damn that stupid stubborn spoiled girl," thought Naruto, since even though he didn't like the princess much, he still didn't want her to get hurt, which would happen if they didn't find her soon. "We must find immediately before something happens to her," cried Kenruch as he and Ryu were about to head out to the front gate and start looking for her. "Wait," cried Naruto, stopping the two men. "If you two go out there by yourself, you won't find her since the forest is too big to search by yourselves. You two should try and gather a search party and gather as many people as you can to help search for her. While you two do that, I will go search for her myself, since I can cover more ground than you two and I can search more areas than you both," spoke Naruto, which got a confused look from the two guards' faces. Seeing this, Naruto quickly did a Kage Bunshin no Jutsu, shadow clone technique, and made 24 shadows clonus of himself. Seeing so many Narutos at once, surprised both Kenruchen and Ryu, but they quickly got over and realized what Naruto had meant. After which they both thanked Naruto for his help and then left to get others to help in the search and said they would join him in the search as soon as they could. Once they left, Naruto and his clonus quickly left the estate and spread out in different directions of the forest outside the estate in the hope of finding Rurochiyo before she got hurt. Half an hour later, with Rurochiyo. "Stupid boy, how dare he treat us like some little child. How dare he look down of us. We show him, that we are just as tough as him," ranted Rurochiyo as she stomped through the forest, not really knowing or caring where she went. For the past 2.5 hours since her argument with Naruto, she had been walking through the forest by herself. Since she wanted to prove to Naruto that she could do whatever he could and that she could handle the real world as well as he could. But soon enough her anger faded and she decided that she would go back to the estate, but the problem was that she did not know which direction to go. as she had been so angry that she did not pay attention to where she was going, where she then realized that she was lost. After a minute or so, Rurochiyo decided to just turn around and go straight ahead in the hopes of finding something that was familiar and that would lead her back home. For a few minutes Rurochiyo walked through the bushes and past the trees and not recognizing anything, but as she walked on through a large bush she suddenly hit something large, black and furry, which then started to growl after she bumped into it. When she stepped away from the thing it stood up and roared, revealing it to be a massive black bear. Seeing the bear, Rurochiyo let out a massive scream and started to run as fast as she could away from the bear, which quickly chased after her with Naruto. For the past half hour Naruto, the real one, had been tracking the trail that he found that was left by Rurochiyo as she stomped through the forest. Thankful Naruto had learned how to track people fairly well thanks to his friend Amoy, who had taught him how to track people, although Naruto had to admit, it was fairly easy. Since the trail Rurochiyo left was pretty easy to follow, especially when you consider the fact that she had no real experience outside her grandfather's country estate. As Naruto ran through the treetops he suddenly heard a girl screaming loudly. Quickly realizing that it was Rurochiyo, Naruto quickly ran off to the direction that the scream came from. It didn't take him long to find Rurochiyo, where he found her on the ground with a large black bear standing over her with its claws ready to rip her apart. Acting quickly Naruto jumped down to them, where he did a falling mid-air spin kick with his superhuman strength to send the black bear flying into a nearby tree. Naruto! Cried Rurochiyo in surprise and relief at being saved from the black bear. Are you alright, Rurochiyo-hime? Asked Naruto while still watching the black bear. Hi, we are fine thanks to you, said Rurochiyo, after which he heard the black bear's roar again, where when she turned back to it she saw the bear had got back up and charged forward at them. Stay back! Cried Naruto as he charged head-on into the black bear, where he ducked right under the black bear's massive claws and using his superhuman strength again, punched it right in its stomach with his right fist and sending the black bear flying right into 5 trees. When Rurochiyo saw this she could not believe her eyes that a mere boy, who was a year younger than her, could have such incredible strength. But she then remembered that one of the things that Naruto's mother Tsunade was famous for was her monstrous strength, which Naruto clearly had inherited. Once Naruto had dealt with the black bear, Rurochiyo went over to Naruto. Is it dead? To which Naruto shook his head. No, it's just knocked out. After dealing with the black bear Naruto then went and healed the small minor wounds that Rurochiyo had gotten from branches and thorns that she had hit as she ran from the black bear. He also then healed the bear so that when it woke up it would be okay. This of course surprised Rurochiyo, and when she asked him why, he simply told her that the black bear only attacked her because it had believed you had attacked it, in which it was only defending itself and did not deserve her to be hurt or die from its wounds. Once the black bear was healed Naruto then had Rurochiyo got onto her back, where he then carried her on his back as he traveled back to the fire daimyo's country estate through the treetops. When they got to the main gates they met Naruto's mother and Shizune, along with the fire daimyo and most of his guards, samurai and servants, along with Kenruchin and Ryu, who were overjoyed along with the fire daimyo to see the young princess safe and unharmed 3 weeks later. Ah! Cried Naruto as he fell on the ground hard when he fell on his back when his katana was knocked away. Not bad, Naruto-san, but your stance is still much too rigged. You need to loosen up and be more flexible, and your grip is not tight enough, since you lost your sword. Spoke a tall young long redden-haired man, whose hair was tied up in a ponytail that reached down to his shoulder blades and wore a red kasode and a white hakama along with a pair of white tabi, and a pair of waruji. This man's name was Kensei and was the strongest samurai and swordsman in Hai no Kuni. After hearing the story at how Naruto had searched and found Rurochiyo and then saved her from the bear, the fire daimyo insisted that he reward Naruto for saving his granddaughter. Naruto had refused gold or other valuable objects he had enough money for, and didn't need or want anymore. He tried to refuse other rewards that the fire daimyo tried to give him, but the fire daimyo insisted, so Naruto then asked him the fire daimyo could find him a swordsman to help train him in kenjutsu, which the fire daimyo did, by summoning Kensei to the estate and having him train him for as long as he was here. Come on Naruto, you can beat him! Cried Rurochiyo, as she cheered Naruto on as she watched him along with Kenruchin and Ryu. After the incident with the black bear, Rurochiyo apologized to Naruto for being so rude and arrogant to him earlier, where Naruto accepted her apology. Soon after Naruto and Rurochiyo became friends, and thanks to the incident and Naruto friendship, Rurochiyo began to change for the better. She became more understanding to people and was even polite to the servants when she asked for something or got something and even said I instead we. She was also more understanding of other people thanks to Naruto. She was also willing to get and do things herself instead of ordering servants around to do it for her. But still she called herself the royal we from time to time and was still stubborn and did not have too much patience, but she was still a better person than she was before. Naruto also became better friends with Kenrich and Ryu as well, where he learned that Ryu had a high-pitched voice. Which was why he usually remained silent most of the time as he was very self-conscious about it and Naruto had to swear that he would never tell anyone about it. Naruto soon got up and got his katana and got into his stance again and did what Kensei had told him to do, after which he then attacked Kensei with his katana. Unknown to Naruto and the others, the fire daimyo had been watching them from the balcony above them and was enjoying watching Naruto train and seeing his granddaughter cheering him on. The fire daimyo had been watching Naruto train with Kensei for much of the past weeks and could see that Naruto's swordsmanship was improving very well, and when Naruto was not training, he was hanging around and talking or playing with his granddaughter, which made the fire daimyo smile when he saw them. After a little while he was soon joined by another person, that person being Naruto's mother Tsunade. "Ah Tsunade, so nice of you to join me. I take it that since you're here my son has nearly recovered," spoke the fire daimyo. "Yes he has, in a few days' time your son should be fully recovered," replied Tsunade as she looked down to watch Naruto train with Kensei. "That is excellent news. I'm very much relieved to hear it," spoke the fire daimyo as he was glad to hear that his son would recover. "I'm certain that Rurochiyo would be equally relieved to hear it as well, as she had been greatly worried about him since before your arrival. I also take it that once he had healed you and your son as well as your apprentice will leave," spoke the fire daimyo. "Hi, since we cannot stay in one place too long in case we draw attention to ourselves," replied Tsunade. "I understand and know that I shall keep my word and no one will hear about your son from my servants, my guards, my samurai or myself, and I certain that they will not hear it from Rurochiyo. Since I have explained the consequences for Naruto to her if she did tell anyone. Thank you, I grateful for that," replied Tsunade, after which she then heard a sad sigh come from the fire daimyo. "It is indeed a shame that you must leave since my granddaughter had become quite fond of your son and is the first real friend her own age that she has had. Not to mention your son has had quite the effect on my granddaughter where she is more sensitive to others' feelings and more understanding. Ever since my daughter's, Rurochiyo's mother, passing when giving birth to Rurochiyo and her father being killed in an accident a year after her birth, I have tried to make sure that she was well cared for and made sure she would have everything she could want. But sadly my doting on her made her spoiled and she did not value other people as she should have. That was until your son arrived and changed her for the better," spoke the fire daimyo with a smile. "Yeah, Naruto has a knack for changing people for the better. He did it for me by being born and giving something to live for, and he did the same for the high priestess daughter Cheyenne," said Tsunade with her own smile. At this the fire daimyo raised his eyebrow in curiosity. "When you say the high priestess, do you mean the high priestess of Oni no Kuni, Demon Country, Priestess Miroku? Hi. So I guess from what you have just told me you and your family were somehow involved in her daughter being saved, considering the exact details of the attempted kidnapping of the high priestess daughter and how it was prevented were never released," said the fire daimyo. "Hi, Naruto was the one who helped save her," replied Tsunade. "I see. It seems your son has quite the talent for saving princesses in danger," chuckled the fire daimyo. "Unfortunately yes," replied Tsunade with a slight annoyance. "He gets it from his father," mumbled Tsunade slightly, which thankfully the fire daimyo didn't hear. "I guessing then that you have heard what happened last year in the country," said the fire daimyo. "Huh, what happened in Oni no Kuni?" asked Tsunade. "Oni no Kuni was attacked by a demon called Morio. The high priestess was able to stop it by separating its spirit from its body and then seal them separately away from one another. Unfortunately, doing so cost the high priestess her life," said the fire daimyo sadly, since he knew the high priestess well and had enjoyed talking to her. "That must be why Cheyenne has not replied to any of Naruto letters. The poor girl must be distraught, but I can't tell Naruto if I do he will want to go there immediately and we can't afford to draw attention to ourselves, since if we go there we surely will," thought Tsunade sadly. After which she decided that she would not tell Naruto, although he would probably be angry with her later on when he finds out, but hopefully he can one day understand why she did it. Thank you for informing me of this, Daimyo Dano, replied Tsunade. So do you intend to go back? Since your son and the new high priestess Cheyenne were friends, said the fire daimyo. No, said Tsunade, which surprised the fire daimyo. If we go, we could very well draw attention to ourselves there, and that is the last thing we need right now. Very well then, Tsunade, that is your choice. But I believe that is a mistake, since often enough when you keep certain secrets like this from your son, they often come back to haunt you later on in your life, spoke the fire daimyo. Tsunade nodded in understanding but did not change her mind, since it was for the best, and whether Naruto would hate or not for it in the future did not matter to her as long as he was safe from harm. Soon enough both Tsunade and the fire daimyo decided to end their conversation and decided to just watch Naruto train several days later at the main gate of the daimyo estate. Once the fire daimyo's son had fully recovered, Tsunade had decided it was time to leave. Goodbye, Tsunade-san, and thank you for all your help, spoke the fire daimyo, to which Tsunade nodded that it was okay. I wish you a safe journey, said Kensei as he shook Naruto's hand and handed Naruto some Kenjutsu scrolls. Thanks, Kensei-sensei, replied Naruto as he took the scrolls and put them in his side pouch, where then turned around to say goodbye to Rurochiyo. Goodbye, Rurochiyo-chan, it was nice meeting you, said Naruto. Take care, Naruto-kan, said Rurochiyo, before she then held out a small silver ring to Naruto. Take it as a small token from my grandfather and me for saving my life. Naruto took it and put it on and looked at it. The ring was made of silver and with the symbol of a bird on it. 5. The bird on the ring is a phoenix and represents fire, which is the symbol of my family. I thought it suited you since you said you are going to be a Konoha ninja one day and fire is said to embody energy and passion, so I thought it was perfect. Said Rurochiyo with a small smile and blush. Thank you, Rurochiyo-chan, it great, said Naruto. Goodbye, Naruto-san, it was a pleasure meeting you, spoke the fire daimyo. Thanks, Oji-san, it was nice meeting you as well, said Naruto, which caused daimyo to chuckle as Naruto amused him so much. While Tsunade yelled and bonked her son on the head and yelled that she was going to drill some manners into her son if it was the last thing she did. Soon enough Naruto, Tsunade, Shizune and Tonton left the main gate and walked away. As they did, Naruto cried out that he would see them all again. I have to say, young Naruto is quite an interesting young man, and I'm certain that we will be seeing and hearing great things from him soon enough. Where things will become very interesting, spoke the fire daimyo as he looked down at Rurochiyo, who was still looking out to Naruto and the others who were walking away. Hi, I think so too, Jiji-sama, respectful term for saying grandfather, said Rurochiyo with a look that the fire daimyo and the others were very familiar with. It was a look that Rurochiyo saw something she wanted. A month later. 1 month after the events at the fire daimyo country estate, Jiraiya met up with Tsunade and the others to give Naruto his next lessons in ninjutsu and funjutsu. After finishing one of his lessons with Jiraiya, he decided that since Jiraiya was here, he could finally confront them about him being the Yandame's son and the Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi no Yoko. So after he had washed up from his training, Naruto then went into the next room to find his mother and Jiraiya sitting down having a plate of sake while Shizune was reading a romance book with Tonton sitting next to her. Ka-chan, Ero-senin, I want to ask you something, spoke Naruto. Sure, Naru-chan, what is it? Said Tsunade as she was taking a sip of sake along with Jiraiya. I want you to tell me why none of you told me that my father was the Yandame and that I'm the Jinchuriki for the Kyuubi no Yoko. Once Naruto said this, both Jiraiya and Tsunade spit out the sake that they had been drinking, and stared wide-eyed in disbelief at him. Since out of all the things they expected Naruto to say, they never expect this. Shizune dropped her book and let out a gasp as she was equally as surprised as well. Naruto. Who told you this? Cried Tsunade, panic-like, fearing that somehow someone had learned the truth about Naruto and told him, since she knew that neither Shizune, Jiraiya nor herself told him, and the only other person that was supposed to know was her sensei Sarutobi. I found out myself, said Naruto calmly. How? When? Where? Said Jiraiya, who was as worried as Tsunade was about how Naruto found out. I found out about a month ago at the daimyo's estate, replied Naruto, whereupon seeing the worried, fearful and confused looks on everyone's face, Naruto went and explained how he found out. Once Naruto had finished explaining how he discovered that Minato was his father and sealed the Kyuubi into him, Jiraiya, Tsunade, Shizune and even Tonton had looks of being completely stunned on their faces, as they could not believe that Naruto had figured out everything out by himself without any help. Jiraiya was the first come out of his shock, where he then quickly went and got 3 more sake plates and poured some sake into them and then handed 2 of them to Tsunade and even Shizune, who then all took a large gulp of sake with Jiraiya to help settle themselves. Once Jiraiya had finished, he started to laugh. Damn brat, you're defiantly your parents' son, that for sure, since you defiantly got bit of both your mom's and your dad's brains. Thanks, I guess, but none of you have answered my question yet, which is why did none of you tell me the truth about my father and that I'm a Jinchuriki? Said Naruto calmly, despite the fact that he was quite angry at the fact that they kept something so important about himself. At this, his mother sighed, since she had dreaded that this say would come and had thought it wouldn't have come so soon, not to mention that Naruto would discover it himself. I'm sorry, Naru-chan, we thought that it would be best at the time that you didn't know about it, since if people found out that you were not only my son but the son of the Yondaime Hokage as well, then they would come after you twice as hard as they would if they just found out that you were my son, since both your father and I were the strongest shinobis in our fields. Where if people learned that you existed and were the byproduct of your father and myself, where the chances of you inheriting some, most or all of our best known qualities were quite high. Then there would be countless people after you as either revenge for something that we did to them or in the hopes of somehow controlling you as using you for their own gains, said Tsunade. I understand that well enough, but if I could keep the fact that I have the Makutan bloodline and that I'm your son secret, I could keep the fact that I'm the Yondaime son a secret as well, replied Naruto coolly. Well, you see, brat, we were kind of afraid that if you knew that Yondaime was your father, you'd be so excited, since you idolized him so much, which was kind of my fault that you did. But still, we thought that you would tell people that he was your father. But still, you're right, we were wrong to keep it from you, since you were able to keep your Makutan bloodline secret and your mother's identity a secret. It was just that bringing up your father is kind of a touchy subject with your mom, said Jiraiya as he saw the scowl on Tsunade's face at the mention of Minato. You mean over the fact that he made me into a Jinchuriki, spoke Naruto neutrally, to which Jiraiya nodded. You have to understand, Naruto, your father had no choice. If he didn't do it, then the Kyuubi would have destroyed Konoha and killed everyone, explained Jiraiya earnestly. I understand that, but still, why me? Your father knew that to seal the Kyuubi, he would have to seal it into a very young child, so to keep it contained, and although he could have held it in another young child, he did not. The reason was because he could not bring himself to ask another family or another parent to make that kind of sacrifice when he could not himself with his own son, said Jiraiya, since Minato was always too noble in that way. I surprised you let him, Kachan. Didn't you try and stop him? Asked Naruto, as he had wondered this as well, especially at how angry she was at him. I didn't know at the time. I was unconscious from a sedative that Shizune gave me to let me rest after giving birth to you, so I didn't know until a few days later. If I had known, I would never have allowed it, and I would killed him myself for even suggesting it. The only reason you didn't grow up with the same hard life as most Jinchuriki is because no one knew you were the Jinchuriki of the Kyuubi, and if they did, the villagers would have attacked you or treated you as an outcast for being it if you had stayed in Konoha. Which was one of the reasons why I didn't stay there to raise you, growled Tsunade, since even over the years her anger against Minato had not lessened one bit. Fine, but that still doesn't explain why you didn't tell me about it. Were you just going to keep it hidden and hope I never found out? Asked Naruto, as he was still angry about being kept in the dark about something this important about himself. No, of course not. It was just that we thought that you were too young at the time, and we thought it would be best if we would wait till you were older where you could handle it better. Since we were afraid that if you found out when you were young, you would think that you were a monster or something and be afraid you would hurt others and would make yourself into an outcast. I also didn't want you to wake up in nights fearing that the Kyuubi would come out and destroy all of us, said Tsunade truthfully. Since on more than one night she had nightmares that the Kyuubi got out of Naruto and killed him. After hearing this, Naruto just sighed. Although he understood both Jiraiya and his mother's reasons along with his father's reasons, he still felt a little angry at them all. Although he knew over time he would get over it. But still, there was still something else that he was wondering. So when were you going to tell me the whole truth? He asked. We had planned to tell you about your father right before you would go to Konoha, while we were going to tell you about the Kyuubi about a year after once you had fully settled into Konoha," said Tsunade. Which Naruto nodded, accepting it, since although he did not like the way they did it, he still understood why. "If I may, there's something I would like to know," spoke Shizune for the first time as she had been watching the whole event from the sidelines. "And what's that, Oni-chan?" asked Naruto. "How did you know about Jinchurikis in the first place, since none of you's ever mentioned them to you?" spoke Shizune. This also got Tsunade and Jiraiya curious, since they were wondering the same thing. Normally a question like that would worry Naruto, especially if he wanted to keep his meeting with Killer Bee and the others secret from his mother and the others. But thankfully Naruto had come up with a believable excuse, since he knew something like this would come up. This was why he waited a while to ask them about the Kyuubi and Yondaime, since he needed time to come up with a believable excuse to tell them. He told that he had went to the library to find out more about his mutant bloodline and its effect on the Bijus, since Tsunade and the others' knowledge of it were limited, and he thought that he might find something new about it in the library. He then told them that during his research he accidentally learned about Jinchurikis, when people sealed the Bijus into humans. He also accidentally read about how the Yondaime had killed the Kyuubi, which was something he found strange, since not even the Shodaime was able to do that. With his mutant powers, and the Bijus were monster made out of chakra, which would make them virtually impossible to kill physically. So when he did research on the Yondaime and saw his picture, he slowly put the pieces together and discovered the truth by himself. Thankfully Tsunade and the others believed Naruto, since technically the story was half true, which made it all the more believable to his mother and Jiraiya as well as Shizune. Once all the questions were answered, Naruto then turned to Jiraiya. "Ero-sennin, do you have any of those pieces of paper that are made from those special types of tree, that allow you to find out what nature affinity you have?" asked Naruto. "Yeah, I have one, but why do you want one? But we already know you have earth and water affinity thanks to you have the mutant bloodline. It would just be a waste of time for you to use it," replied Jiraiya. "Well, you see, during my medical studies with Oni-chan, I read that a lot of times children will often inherit their affinity from one of their parents, and in some cases inherit two nature affinities from both their parents, and I read that the Yondaime had an affinity to wind and lightning," said Naruto. "But there's no certainty that you will inherit any of your father's affinities. Most people are only born with one, and sometimes a completely different one from their parents. Sarutobi Sensei's own son Asuma has an affinity to wind, and neither Sensei nor his wife had an affinity to wind. The only reason you were born with two affinities is because of your mutant bloodline. Since the only reason why many bloodline users are born with two or more affinities is due to their bloodline abilities. The chances of you having another nature affinity that isn't connected to your bloodline is about 1,000,000 to 1 if not more," spoke Jiraiya. "Just humor me, Ero-sennin, since it can't hurt to just try and see what happens," said Naruto. "Fine," grumbled Jiraiya as he found this to be a waste, but decided to just prove to Naruto he could not have been born with any other affinities other than earth and water. Jiraiya then took out
Speechify Premium gives you ultra-fast reading speeds, the ability to save content across all your devices, and oh yeah, Snoop Dogg.
Yo, it's Snoop D-O-double-G, and I'm excited you picked me to bring life to the words on your screen.
Download Speechify Premium today for an ad-free, unlimited storage experience.
the paper from his side pouch and then held the paper to Naruto for him to touch. When Naruto did, Jiraiya's jaw hit the floor along with Tsunade's and Shizune's when they saw the paper cut into 3 pieces as it fell to the ground. Where the first one turned to dirt, the second became damp and the third crumpled up, showing Jiraiya and the others that Naruto had 4 natural nature affinities, 1 for earth, 1 for water, 1 for wind and 1 for lightning. "Impossible," thought Tsunade. "It can't be though, Shizune. How the hell is this possible?" thought Jiraiya. "Jiraiya, are you certain that there's nothing wrong with the paper? It must be defective or something," said Tsunade as she still could not believe that Naruto had 4 natural nature affinities. "No, there's nothing wrong with. I certain of it. I picked it up a while back with a few others and they all worked fine," said Jiraiya. "But how can Naruto have 4 natural nature affinities?" said Shizune. "I don't really know," said Jiraiya. "I can explain his earth and water affinity easily enough, but as for the lighting and wind, well, it obviously came from Minato. Since he had both, but he naturally had an affinity to wind and later trained to get lightning, he didn't have it naturally. Like I said before, for Naruto to have both his mother's and his father's nature affinities were about over 1,000,000 to 1. More so when he got Minato's lightning affinity natural instead of training for it like he did. My only answer was luck of the draw, where Naruto was one of those very lucky few that were allowed to inherit both his parents' nature affinities. Replied Jiraiya as he was still baffled at what just happened. Could have it because of the Kyuubi, asked Tsunade. Possible, but I doubt it, since other than his quick recovery and healing, all other effects that the Kyuubi may give would be nullified by Naruto mutant bloodline, said Jiraiya. Naruto, did you know that this would happen, said Tsunade, since considering that Naruto was the one to push for it, then it was likely that he knew about it. No, not really. I suspected that I might have inherited one of the Yondame's affinities, but I didn't know for certain. Lied Naruto, since he could not tell the truth as to how he knew he had 4 nature affinities. At this, Tsunade frowned, since she suspected that Naruto wasn't telling her the truth really. But she decided to let it go for now, since she knew that Naruto would eventually tell them the truth when he was ready. Besides, she wasn't going to look a gift horse in the mouth, where her son had 4 natural nature affinities, which would help him greatly in his training and would give him a big advantage in the future. So what will we do now? Asked Naruto. Well, we're going to train you a lot harder now, since you need to master those new nature affinities you discovered, and even though none of us have those affinities, we will help you the best we can. But it will still be hard, since like with Makuton, you won't have us to show you firsthand to do jutsus that involve those elements, said Tsunade. That's okay, I master them both in no time flat, said Naruto with a grin. At this, Tsunade and the others smiled, since, if anyone could do it, it would be Naruto. Okay Gaki, I guess we better start work again now, said Jiraiya as he and Naruto went out to train again. Naru-chan certainly is full of surprises, said Tsunade, to which Shizune nodded with a smile. And guys, this is the end. I hope you enjoyed. See you next time. Disappears in a flicker of light.